Ian Rapoport reporting that Week 18 will go on as scheduled. So that's an answer to the question you asked during your lead this morning, Shime. That game will happen, Pats, Bills, and the rest of the schedule this weekend. So
yeah, he said presumably, to be fair. So I think there's still a possibility that there's changes that come. But I'm not saying for sure. Like this isn't a report or anything like that. I just think that I wouldn't be surprised if something changes.
I would be.
I wouldn't be surprised if something changes. I think there's a lot of moving parts. It would be crazy when it comes to TV deals, contracts, fans traveling to the game, both from New England and to Buffalo in general. There's a lot of moving parts, but I don't know.
So you would be surprised?
I wouldn't be surprised. I understand that there's a lot that has to go into it for the league to actually make that change, but
but they have not done that in any other instance where someone has been severely injured playing football.
Correct.
The difference is a lot.
What's the difference?
When has somebody you think that who's been sedated in the past where we don't know if they're going to come out of that sedation?
Sean Taylor died during the season.
But not during a game.
No, not during a game. But he's still a player that was on a team that passed away during the season.
I agree. I think it's much different, and both are terrible, don't get me wrong. It's much different for a player to find out their teammate has died in a meeting than to watch them die on the field, be brought back to life. But that trauma for all of those players has to be taken into account.
But when does that, I understand that trauma, but so how long does the league wait?
Until he's out of the hospital or until that there's a sign that he'll come through.
I think once he's awake.
But that might be weeks.
Right.
Months.
And you're likely right, Wiggy. I'm probably wrong that this is potentially not going to be played. And I think that the angle that would make the most sense is different situation, just work with me here. But think about the Bruins game the Wednesday or Thursday after the marathon bombings, where all of Boston got to watch the fans go back to the Garden and take over the national anthem. It was a real sign of strength for a community that was struggling. I think Buffalo, to talk about something totally unrelated to the need for Damar Hamlin to be okay, for the Patriots, just strictly on the field, that building is going to be unlike anything you've ever experienced when it comes to, you saw the Sabres the other night. Was it last night? Like the city of Buffalo, all of upstate New York will be there in a way which I think would be cathartic for the players and the fans to come together and, do something other than sit and wonder about the health of your teammates. So I get both sides of it, and it seems like you, Wiggy, you're right that they're going to be playing as scheduled.
See, the only reason why I look at it is and I'm kind of removing Damar Hamlin's the situation of what is going on with him because we don't know what direction that's going to go in. I'm looking at they already have a scheduling issue with the Cincinnati-Buffalo game. If you now don't play Buffalo-New England, now you have another scheduling issue that potentially could then start this domino or snowball effect where you're talking about the last week of the season.
Don't you think there was probably some changes with their schedule, practice-wise, meetings-wise, once they got back? So I'm not saying they're going to cancel. There's no way they're going to cancel that game, but I think they might move it.
Right, but see, that moving that game creates this domino effect, not just for Buffalo, but now New England if they're able to win. So there's more than one team that is just affected. It's not like it's just affecting Buffalo. Because if you move this game to Tuesday and then
or Wednesday, then you're giving should the Patriots win or the Bills, for that matter, you're giving them less time to prepare when it comes to the playoffs.
Right. And if the Patriots happen to win, and now there's a good chance that they win, and then Buffalo and Cincinnati potentially could flip-flop. Now you're going to Cincinnati, and 4 days later to playing a wild card game? And then you've got to factor in, see, the reason why I think Buffalo and Cincinnati have to play.
But the 4 days later, people play Sunday and then play Thursday.
Right, but not normally for a playoff game, right? And so now it's affecting a team who's not supposed to be. You're preparing for a short week, and usually after you do that, you then have a long week off. Now let's just say that New England wins, then they got to play another game, and the fact that the Cincinnati Buffalo game that is postponed, there's such a the playoff positioning is so up in the air because of that game. That game is so critical. For one, Buffalo, if they win that game, they're the 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Any chance that those two teams agree to call that game, a tie?
Well, I see. I don't know if you can protect, because now you're adding tiebreakers in to where, because people are missing out. They're going, well, Kansas City gets the 1 seed. Okay, well, if you're Buffalo and Cincinnati, do you think Cincinnati wants to give up the 2 seed? Give up a position to be like, if we ultimately have to play Buffalo in the divisional round, do we want to go to Buffalo and play with knowing that if we beat them, they got to come to us? So I think that's the way Cincinnati might be looking at it.
This is Charlie from Everett. What's up, Charlie?
Hey, I just wanted to say I was in the hospital in February. I got incubated,
Yeah.
and they put me to sleep in the coma and everything. I was in it for like 3 days. Everything seems to be good now. You bounce back from it. It's one of those things that I think, the medical people nowadays are so trained and well prepared for any situation. My heart stopped. They revived me. Mm-hmm. They brought me back to life. They put me in a coma for 3 days. Mm-hmm. I was in the hospital for about a week, and everything's fine now. Everything's normal. I'm not playing football. I'm not out getting hit and banged around and stuff. But I'm just happy to be alive because of the way they brought me back. The people in Mass General Hospital are unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the people in Cincinnati are unbelievable. It's the trained people that we have that we got to be thankful for.
Charlie, we're thankful you're still with us.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, in the Twitch chat, a suggestion that Wiggy and I guess myself cannot understand this because we're boomers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not technically a boomer.
Mm-hmm. And I know damn sure I ain't a boomer.
It is odd, Greg, that you are so against the next generation and everything Courtney or Scheim or me to a certain extent does, but yet you defend Mac Jones, who is the peak of all of those things you hate.
Like the worst of all of us.
Like nothing's ever his fault. It's
Max,
always
he's misunderstood.
That's what it is.
I mean, if that were anybody else, you'd be like, Curtis, we need to do a what are we doing about Mac Jones and the next generation. We're doomed.
What don't we understand?
We have What Are We Doing coming up at 8:30, Curtis?
I cannot wait.
Okay.
Craig,
And by the way, I'm a total idiot. I said burglar. I don't even know what happened, so
You
I
did.
apologize.
No, you were being dragged left and right.
Yeah.
Text line, Twitch chat, everybody's like, who says burglar?
Yeah.
It's nice that everybody else is so perfect, Curtis.
Greg, what don't we understand? Because I want to see what the Twitch person is.
They're saying that the world is different now, and something like this happens, and so it be completely reasonable that this game would not be played the Patriots. Bills game would not be played for a considerable amount of time, so the Bills players
that's where they're
get themselves around what happened.
Right, but that's where they're wrong in the sense that I understand it's very, it's going to be very difficult for Bills players to get to where they need to be mentally. But the other thing that the person in the Twitch is not understanding, the NFL is a business and a company that has to continue to keep moving, right? And even
that's what the Twitch person is saying,
right?
though.
But even though with tragedy, in every tragedy, you still have to continue to move, even though you might have to deal with what's going on outside of it. We've seen guys, and I know it's not affected the whole team, but we've seen guys lose parents, lose brothers, lose loved ones, and go out there and play. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of be trained in this element of the business that you're in. You don't have the luxury of being able to say, I need to take some days off.
I've never seen either happen, so I can't tell you from firsthand perspective. But is it more traumatic seeing what happened the other night, or seeing somebody who is paralyzed on the field? Is because that's happened several times in the NFL. And so is it? I don't know the answer to that question, but in the incidents of the former, they continue to play football.
Right.
But we're talking about things that they are losing. The one thing that they are concerned about, outside of the obvious health of Hamlin, is losing participation in this sport. In all those other years, that wasn't an issue. In all those other years, there wasn't 24/7 sports talk, 24/7 ESPN at Fox Sports 1. There wasn't all of these networks that are devoting all this time to this health and safety of playing football. That's why this is an issue.
That's what I was just going to say, because, Wiggy, I understand what you're saying, that they have to, at some point you do have to move on and continue with what you need to do. But at the same time, all we do is drag the league constantly for lacking empathy when it comes to these players or lacking, making sure that they are okay both mentally and physically. And they just use them as a cash cow.
Right.
Now, if they're hearing all the noise and all we want is the NFL to make some changes to make sure that the players are okay, then that is what they're saying. This is a different age than when everything else has happened in the past. So we can't just keep going back and saying, well, when this happened, they didn't cancel a game. When this happened, they kept playing. Things change. Things need to change.
Greg's right, though. A guy getting paralyzed on the field is more likely to happen because of the safety of the game and then having that conversation.
When have they ever suspended a game in the middle of it?
No.
Because of an injury on the field?
But
they haven't.
They
exactly.
haven't.
That's why we are in unprecedented territory.
But listen, this is different because it wasn't the game not being safe that led to this. That's a separate issue. When you're having a conversation about the game being safe, that safety element didn't lead to this situation. This doesn't have anything to do. So the league's not looking at it like the concussion stuff that you see with Tua.
Not what I'm saying. I'm saying the other players.
Right, but the other what do you think's more difficult for players to deal with? The fact of being able to have to go out on the field a week later or 2 weeks later, knowing that your teammate has passed away, or
why didn't they play Monday night? Why'd they stop playing?
Well, because I think they stopped playing because they didn't know what the outcome was.
What's the matter? Everybody gets hurt. There's paralyzed. There's things that happen all the time. Why didn't they just finish the game like they did every other time?
Well, because I think the fact of them having to administer the CPR was something that they had never expected.
But he was back to life, and then he was on the stretcher. Why not keep playing?
I'm saying from here moving forward, as players in that league, they're looking at it. What's the most important thing that we heard from former players? All I want to know is that my man's okay. Yeah. My man is okay.
Well, you're not going to know that Sunday.
Right, but what you do know is right now he's alive.
But he's not okay.
But it's not you know that he's alive.
Well, you keep repeating that. Right, but he's still he's not okay. He's not breathing on his own.
I understand that he's not out of the water. But in the case of players that have passed away before, these are situations that you have to deal with. So if he's alive and he's not out of the water, if he's not out of the water for another 2-3 weeks,
would you want them to not play football until he's out of the hospital?
Right.
Curtis?
I think it's up to the players.
No, I'm just expressing that what Wiggy is saying, that this is normal, it wasn't the cause of a dirty hit, this is all part of the game, then according to Wiggy, they should have just finished the game.
Well, they were going to do that.
They didn't. Why? Because of what social media said, which is what I said Tuesday morning.
And what those coaches decided.
No. The reason why I think they didn't do it is because of the time that it took for the CPR and the administration to administer.
I think there was a very real risk.
Right.
They didn't know whether he was going to live or not.
Right.
I think there was a very real, they felt that it was a real possibility that he was not going to make it.
Right. And I think that was part of it, Greg. But if the CPR and all that stuff, let's say it would have happened quicker and they were able to kind of bring him back to life and got him in the ambulance and it only took them 7 or 8 minutes to do all that and then get him off the field, don't you think they would have played that game?
If you're in the ICU, which is sadly where he still finds himself,
yep,
that's not a place where everything's okay.
No.
So he will if he is still there Sunday, then outside of the percentage of oxygen he is receiving from the ventilator, he is still in a very difficult, precarious position. So that's all I'm saying is that there's not going to be any answer on Sunday,
right?
Likely about the future health of Damar Hamlin. Yet they're going to be playing where they were playing Monday night, and there was no answer either way.
Well, but I think the Monday night thing. But the Monday night point is it was in the moment. You now have a couple of days as a player to kind of see the situation because you don't know where he's going to be in 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So as a player, you can't just sit there and go, well, we're not playing until he's fine. And I told you, Sean Taylor got killed during the season, and that team had to be able to obviously deal with the issues that they had and then continue to
And
go.
then keep playing football.
Because it's not like a regular job where somebody can say, oh, I need 2 weeks of bereavement time to get back to it.
But that's bereavement time for a family member.
Right.
If you're going to compare it to a regular job, people die in the workplace.
Right.
And that would be like shutting the company down
Right.
for 2 weeks.
And
That generally doesn't happen.
And you can't do that in this situation because not only in this company, there are so many other things that one game potentially affects.
All right.